Simply speaking, the Spanish language. Yo no soy Latina. Simply speaking, the Spanish.
Hello, this is a follow-up on the last video I done featuring Professor Sowell. I had made a comment, an opinionated comment, based on some studies and some videos about Hispanic culture and how I feel about a particular pet peeve, if you will. But this is just a follow-up. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, and thank you.
Speaking the Spanish language. Yo no soy Latina. Simply speaking, the Spanish language does not make me part of Europe. Speaking English doesn't make me part of Europe. These two languages have been forced on my people for the last 500 years. Whether you are from Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, Guatemala, a reservation in Arizona, Mexico City, you have been kept ignorant, subservient to European culture. We are victims of colonialism. A colonialism that began in 1492.
Started earlier
We are
than
not
that.
the children of Cortez. We are not the people that came on La Pinta La Ninta.
Spanish knew about the Americas before Columbus. They've been coming here during the Asian or Chinese, if not during, right after. And they've been colonizing before Christopher Columbus. Go figure that. That is the new research. Quote me. But if I'm wrong, like I say, any respectful comment is accepted. If I'm wrong, or if you see any flaws or any corrections need to be made, please feel free. Because this is for the Black community. And I don't agree. I understand what this lady is saying, but I don't agree or support this commentary. But she is making some good, valid points. But like I said, because of so much religion and politics, that's what got Black folks thinking that people like her are us when her people took over our land, the Pueblos, okay, in the U.S. The people before they was called Pueblos, before the Spanish and French came, they were melanated people. You will see that clear, irrefutably. They didn't have straight hand stuff like the Lakotas and Dakotas being promoted now, and like this sister. Y'all know y'all history. No ancient primitive aboriginals from modern indigenous, okay? Understand the Mayans, that they were melanated people. And you have two terms of Mayans. You have ancient Mayans, those were the melanated ones. Then you have the Mesoamerican modern Mayans that you hear mostly of, getting all the credit right before as the Spanish came. And don't quote me on that, just correct me on it. But they are not us. Yes, colonization, colonialism is why we have pale Mediterranean people throughout the Americas talking about they brown and all it is. Just like in Australia. Due to eugenics, y'all, study the cultural eugenics. It will break it down irrefutably. Just like in Europe, just like in the Mediterranean. Okay, colonialism changed them people into lighter skin, straight hair. And I'm not saying dark people of color aren't. Our DNA don't reach that spectrum. But you have to understand the eugenics and how it was used. And you have to understand when the Greeks and the Romans took over the Mediterranean region and North Africa and East Africa and South Yemen and all of that. Well, they really didn't take over till later. I'm sorry, don't quote me on the Greeks and the Romans and the Yemens. Don't quote me on that. But I was talking about the colonialization. I'm losing my thought. But yeah, it's the same thing. Just like you have ancient people in northeastern Africa that were melanated. Now, because of colonialism, these modern Egyptians want to take claim to our ancestry. And the same with Mexicans and stuff. Yes, all races got our DNA in them, okay? Or practically all, if not all. You know, I'm not God. I didn't create everything. I don't know. I don't think Mr. Kittles know as much as he seems to be. He's with a team and he study DNA and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I don't agree with him. And he studies it. And there's questions to why I don't. I hope Dane Calloway exposed Dr. Henry Gates or work with them, one or the other, and Kittles. And I think they're going to expose them. But anyway, no, dear. Start studying and start understanding, realizing you are colonized, like you said, but that's why y'all phenotypes are different. Y'all are not the original ancestry. And I even read where, and don't quote me on it, just study it, where some of the indigenous people, like in Brazil and stuff, have a different body DNA, body makeup. You know, like some people throughout the Americas, Central America, have that DNA structure, but a lot of them don't. They have Spanish and French. Just do y'all study. So I don't really know why people like this sister, and like I say, I understand the politics and religion got people saying, they us, we brothers. No, they are derivatives of us, but it's been colonized. They not us. Yes, you can tell with phenotype, but check out the history. Those ancient cities were built by melanated people, and Africans in ancient times and South Americans built and they did business together. Read the, the Juarez and the Moshes. Read that. We read about the ancient Juarez and the Moshes of South America, and you will understand where I'm coming from.
These two languages have been forced on my people for the last 500 years. Whether you are from Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras,
and I do understand the Puerto Rican
in Arizona, Mexico
history.
City.
I do understand the history of Columbus during that time and the free Africans, the free black men. I do understand that era before the Atlantic slaves came there. Let me say that again. I do understand the history of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, at that area, that region. I do understand the politics of the dark Spanish peoples and the dark free Africans. They were free, they weren't slaves, and they came there and started colonizing that island, that region, before the transatlantic became, I don't know in effect, but became contemporary or popular, if you will, during that time as a means of labor. Okay, I do understand that it was time before the transatlantic slave that Spanish and Africans were colonizing, but before that it was a caste, if you will. It was an elitist and a caste. Even then, even though they wasn't slaves, they still were bottom caste, the free African men, and they had children with the Tianos. Okay, they were allowed to. They were allowed to have children. The free African people were allowed to have families, and some was allowed to have business. So just read, you'll get it. But no, these phenotypes are colonized. They're not us.
You have been kept ignorant, subservient to European culture. We are victims of colonialism. A colonialism that began in 1492. We are not the children of Cortez. We are
Did not start in 1492, dear.
And la Pinta, la Niña, la Santa Maria. We have nothing to do with Spain.
That's not true.
We are the indigenous people of this continent who are falsely
That's not
called
necessarily true.
Hispanic and Latino as a way to kill our indigenous identity and history. We are supposed to disappear like the wind. We are supposed to shatter like the damn ground that we walk on. We are supposed to be turning into ashes. We're not supposed to exist. This is not part of the game plan for the Europeans. And here we are, ignorant of who we are, dying
Still
our
ignorant.
hating who we are, putting blue-green eye contacts, watching novelas of a bunch of bleach blonde women being served by full-blooded indigenous people. Spanish is being glamorized as the most exotic language, and we take pride in it as if it belonged to us.
Colonial.
As if our people weren't killed to speak Spanish.
Colonized,
like if our people
colonialism.
weren't forced to speak Spanish. Like if our people weren't raped for the last 5 centuries to exist as Spanish-speaking slaves of Europeans. Whether you speak English or Spanish, those languages are not us and they do not define us. You see, before we spoke English and Spanish, we were actually speaking languages that reflected us, like Nahuatl, Yoemi, Quiche. We spoke languages that reflected who we were.
I believe those are mine.
We had names that reflected who we were.
Native
We had a worldview
American
that
ancestries,
reflected on
but
us, the reflection of the Creator.
I
But
can't
these
wait
last
till this
5
get
centuries of
exposed.
systematic ignorance and this education that only reinforces white supremacy has us confused, lost.
Again, I'm not strongly adverse in this study. I will study it more. And I suggest that we as a Black community study this country. This is our ancestry. This is our birthright. Our ancestors were the natives and the aboriginals of this land. Her people came much later, and they are derivatives of us. But her people, her phenotype was colonized. And again, anything that I'm not saying wrong, correct me on it. But some of the things she's saying, I think she's putting too much on it and may need to get it straight, or she just speaking from only her people conception, but she not speaking for the whole history of the Americas, because then there are a lot of flaws in her statement and a lot of things that history has been updated on. DNA research has reproven and it's irrefutable. It's a lot of questionable things, but no, dear, you're not us. You're not a melanated African native, Aboriginal native of this country, but you indigenous, I'll give you that, modern indigenous, past few hundred years. I even say before the Spanish came and colonized, and the French. Even before we know it, they were here. So they've been colonized. That's why your phenotype exists, dear. And it's strongly urged and promoted. But you're not my ancestor. I was Chief Warhorse. They ain't count. All these scholars they know all this information. But they act to me, they act timid in a lot of cases. They'll get on YouTube and start preaching us and ask us to support them and buy their books. But I don't see many people bringing out, but like somebody like Tariq Nasheed bring out some information and put it on the video and charge us something. I guess he getting all the accolades. They getting the accolades and the money. But where's the work? Where's the footwork? Where's the debates? And I'm not just talking about Sinetta amongst brethren. I'm talking about with these top scholars, with this evidence. That history guy. Baby, what's that history dude going around America finding all kind of stuff about Spanish and Chinese people here in America hundreds of years before, way before Columbus was even thought of? He exposed that, but he's getting all the accolades for it. Just that History Channel, okay? And shout out to them. And that Silo, I forget his name, the Spoon Man, that study history, anthropology. I'm gonna have to expose some of his rhetoric too. It's 50-50. I get something from these people that ain't for us, But at the same, I'm observing how they taking literally our history from us. And this is to me what she's doing. She's literally doing what is being done. Literally, our history is the rug is being snatched from under us. They is literally taking our history from us. They using all kind of means. They compressing white history. They got to compress white history. They got to compress history to make white history relevant. You know, so many lies and hidden history. Come on now. And this is what she represents to me, that she's, like I said, unless she's just speaking from her people, her phenotype, her people from a few hundred years ago, maybe right before the Spanish, I give her that. But look up the Pueblos in North America. Look up their ancestry, okay? Look at the gap. Look at the pheno makeup of these people. Look at what the scholars have said. Look at what your Hispanic top scholars are saying about the phenotypes, the DNA structure of the ancient people throughout the Americas and the civilization. You do that and you expose it. Then I can agree with you. But if you just speaking from a concept, you need to make it real, but Black people study. I have to study. This goes for me too. I just studied some, but study, y'all. It is tripped out how in this society, they don't even talk about during the 12th and 13th century, 14th, 15th century, that the Europeans was doing business with the Americas here. And they both had slaves, both from their land and this land. But they didn't talk about that in public schools. But it is a fact. And don't quote me on it. Correct me on it and do your research.
But we are here. We are the survivors of the world's biggest genocide, where 95% of our population was wiped out. And yet we have no idea. We have no clue. Our parents don't know. They have been working so hard in the fields. A lot of them didn't even finish preschool, middle school. But here we are, survivors in our own right.
Twist that. Thank you, Mr. Twist That, or the Twist That channel.
We are Nicantlaka. We are the indigenous people of this continent. We have been divided by false borders. We have been divided by false languages. We are working in the Mexica movement to create an establishment, this unity, the Watinsuyu Nation, Mexica movement, all the way from North and South America. This is our continent, separated by European borders. We walk ignorantly of who we are. We look down on the ground and don't even realize that it is ours. We are the Nicantlaka people, and we are learning the truth. Mexica movement, we invite you. Join us in this liberation, the true decolonization of our mind. We are colonized. We do not accept it. We have to fight it, resist it with everything that you have. We are not products of Europe. We are not the children of Cortez. We are not the people that came on La Niña La Pinta.
But y'all are colonized by Cortez.
We are the indigenous people that stood before them.
Baby, who was that dude we read about, the one that kept flip-flopping and stuff? The Hispanic dude, the one we did that little studying on. Do you remember? What's his name? Cortez, the one minute he was for Mexican, then but he was for the U.S. and the French. He was flip-flopping. I forgot. It was a lot of that too, y'all. A lot of history is exhausting. I'm gonna put it to you like that. And if people don't tell it right, they can really mislead you. They can tell you one thing and it can make it seem as if everything like this lady is saying is true. Again, I can't really speak for certain things she's speaking about, but I do know melanated people, our Aboriginal Native American ancestry from Turtle Island throughout the Yucatans, throughout to Bolivia, okay, were melanated people, and those were our ancestries. We're not just from Africa, we have native ancestry and our birthrights, and people like this are trying to take it away from us. This is why I do what I do, y'all.
Centuries. This is who we are. But we're taught to be fake.
Yeah, I'm still
people,
recording.
fake imitation of who they are.
Oh, you want to?
But we're not. No matter how hard we try to be white, our ancient connection is far too deep.
Y'all are white.
Bleached away by
Y'all are white, dear. You can't
Let's
take.
love ourselves.
You can't
Let's learn
fake
better.
real history.
Let's decolonize ourselves. Brothers and
You
sisters,
are white.
Mexican, Central American, South American, Native American. We are one. One people under occupation by European colonization. We are not Hispanic. We are not Latino. We are not Indians because we are not from India. We are the indigenous people from this land.
My people are the aboriginals.
We are Nican Tlaca. Nican Tlaca. We are the survivors of the biggest genocide.
The not Latinos. I didn't see all of this. ADOS. I think Twist that kind of finna check deck. I never seen this. It's called Twist That. Twist DAT. And shout out to them.